So you see, there was no surprise for me. That is why I say that this first career was most necessary to me.
Well, I'm sure it was a marvelous experience. You certainly came as an enormous surprise to me.
In other words, young girls start at 24. They say, oh, she's very young, shall we say 25, for a role.
Yes.
It's true. I also debuted in big roles. All these roles were mine then. And I was very young, yes. But I had already an 8-year experience, 10-year experience. So you see,
this enabled you to carry
I was
off
prepared, yes.
even things like Fidelio. That's
yes.
absolutely amazing.
I did that just before the war. Before the war ended.
And you have sung Isolde and the Brunhildes too, haven't you?
Brunhilde and Kundry.
Oh, that would be a fabulous role for you.
Yes.
Did you enjoy singing Kundry?
Yes, it was a lovely experience, I must say. I hated the screams, but I managed them well, I suppose.
Yeah.
But it was much fun.
I should think so.
I did it the first time with Serafin, and it was Bayer in the beginning, the first time he did Parsifal. Very handsome man then.
Tell me, did you went along with this fabulous technical training in bel canto that you had as a very young girl? Did you also have training in acting? Because of course this is this is so rare. You have somebody who has the command of bel canto.
I was curious. I interrupt you, but I was most curious when I had Elvira de Hidalgo again now a month ago at my home. She will come back again, by the way. So I'll train again.
You still go on training, don't you?
Well, you know, you say I'm famous, but the more famous I become, the more I have to train.
I think it's your own standards for yourself.
Yes, I'm afraid so. I'm afraid so.
Tell me
but
about
anyway.
the acting.
And I asked her,
Yeah.
well, was I, since a child, always easy on acting? And she says, yes, you were amazingly so. I, even then, admired the way you moved your hands and your body, and these were all new to me. And yet, she says, I was considered a good actress, and I had seen the greatest. I saw that there was something different and completely your own. And she admired also then my hands. So you see, it was since I was a child. It's nothing. Though I remember that the very first experience, when I was still 13 years old, I didn't really know what to do with my hands. But I remember then we had a operetta director. He was Renato Mordo. He's dead now. And he had said then two things that stuck to my mind. One, never move your hand unless you follow it with your mind and with your soul. It's a strange way of putting it, but it's so true. It must be strings of the heart and the mind.
Well, this seems to me that it pervades everything that you do, whether it's your hands or your...
Well, I don't know. He's probably said this to other people, and they haven't made it their own. But I am a sponge. I love to grasp whatever other people say, and I take what's good in it, what I feel is good for me, and I leave the rest. But I am a sponge, I must say. And the second thing he said was that when your colleague sings the role to you, sings his lines, try and forget what he's supposed to say, and your reactions must be as though you had never heard what he's saying, and it's all a first reaction. So you see...
And you're able to do that?
Well, yes, so much that if he makes a mistake and forgets his words, I couldn't I couldn't give him his words. Well, I try to, at least, to live up to certain things that we've learned as youngsters.
And yet everything you do is so very much your own.
Yes, but it's always new. I try to forget on stage what I was supposed to do. And it must be studied at home, yes. But once you're in the theater on stage, it must have something new about it. You must loosen up and just, work yourself around, even if you had studied to go to the right instead of the left. Well, never mind. If it comes that you should go to the left, it's more real. The public will like it better. It should be real.
It has to be really
you. It has to
be
real. It has to be. And in fact, if you notice, I don't know if you followed me that much, at every performance, there's always something different.
Yes, I have noticed that.
I cannot do the same gesture the same way. It cannot be. It's like a signature. Two signatures cannot be alike.
And yet they are always Maria Callas.
Yes, but they vary because it's according to the phrase, to the voice, to what the other colleague, how he feels. There's always an elasticity about music and about art, I feel. But of course, up to a certain limit.
Yes.
There's always a certain limit, even in corones, as they say, in long-held notes. There's always a rhythm to it. It must not be held longer than such a timing.
Which is a sense that many singers don't
music
have.
Is very difficult, If you really want to perform music, It's really not as easy as the public thinks. There's a lot to it, lots of devotion, dedication, respect for the composer, and it's a whole science, a whole art.
And you have worked
Well, I still work.
very hard at it.
I still work because, you see, we go by very little. And you have to search and...
How do you mean we go by very little?
We go. It's like reading a book. Many times you read a book, but you have to read between the lines, too. Because we have our music, we read the music, we perform it, but we have to read what the composer would have wanted. 1,000 colors, expressions. It's really not as easy as all that, if one really cares that much.
Yes.
I do.
Tell me, how do you choose the roles that you sing? I was trying to think the other day if I could remember anybody that I'd even heard about who has had the degree of versatility and the range that you have had, both vocally and dramatically. The only person
that is Elvira de Hidalgo, that always kept me on the light side. She knew I was a very heavy voice, but she knew also that such heavy voices should always be kept limber, as all athletes also, because the main thing, I was a dramatico coloratura, and you must always keep the voice lighter than what she is, and agile. So I was already trained to do that, and also because it amuses me. It amuses me enormously to dominate a difficulty.
I sense that.
I like challenge.
Yes, I'm sure.
Well, what more is there in life if we're not challenged to really dominate something that's nice and to offer it to the public with a maximum of ease?
Well, this is something that a great artist feels. There are those who perhaps don't exert themselves so much.
The instrumentists do that.
Yes,
the pianist, the violinist, that's the first thing they do. So the voice must do exactly the same, whether we like it or not, and whether we can.
Tell me, is there anything that you can pass on from this experience of yours, the hard work that you put in, the thought that you put into all the roles, that you can put into words for young artists? So many artists start out with beautiful gifts or with lovely voices and then
That's not
seem
enough.
to...
What
is the extra thing?
Oh, there's lots of extra things. First of all, you must have, as I say, to do pasta asciutta, you must have the farina, the flour.
Yes.
That is, of course. But after you have the flour and all the necessary ingredients, you have to make the pasta. But then, from there on, that's why you go to the conservatoire, if there are good teachers. In any case, that's beside the point, unfortunately, which is, not beside the point. It's most necessary, because the basis is the most important thing in singing. If you start right, you're on for life. But if you start wrong, well, you can't get rid of bad faults. But the correct schooling you learn at the conservatoire, possibly. Then, from there on, you learn music.
Yes.
You learn interpretation. You learn the styles. You learn all the acrobatism that goes with it. The vocalizing, plus the harmonizing. Music, in other words. So you serve with your instrument music, actually. It isn't enough that you have a beautiful voice. You must take this voice and break it up to 1,000 pieces, so she will serve you in all the written phrases, coloratura, and expressions that you must do. Because they are mostly written there.
And the unwritten things, too.
Well, yes, it's true. That is colors and all that, but there are lots of written things. And by written, I don't mean just vocalizing.
Yes.
Because they write things, yes, the notes, but after that you must put the phrase together with artistry. You can imagine if Yasser Heifetz didn't play his violin the way he did, if just a wonderful technician played it, how boring it would be.
Yes, and
you put life, and then on top of it, you see, the instrumentists only have notes, but we have words, we have drama or comedy. From there on, we have to do what the instrumentists do, but after that, we put words to reality.
And
we create a dream world, but we create reality. So our work is even more serious and difficult.
It certainly is. It must take an enormous degree of willpower, I should think.
Love. Excuse me, Mr. Downs. It's not willpower. This is devotion and love, to serve what you adore.
And that is stronger yet.
Ah, yes. Yes, because it's you can't do this out of willpower.